Now let's talk politics. Of course, the electoral umpire, INEC, was going to receive knocks and some praises over its decision to postpone the March 11 governorship and state assembly polls. And so ahead of the new election date, March 18, some political parties have expressed misgivings about the handling of the governorship and assembly polls by INEC. The Labour Party insists that INEC's handling of the presidential and national assembly elections had eroded its confidence, which it said could no longer be trusted. Now, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, supports the postponement, warning that excuses would not be tolerated. Now, the ruling APC says it respects the postponement, but hopes that's the deferral, would help to fill the missing gaps. Adekunle, you have the picture now.
Yes, I do. I feel, hugely disappointed, with the glitches, because this is not the first time. Remember 2019? Yeah. When INEC had promised that it would deliver, electronically, but at the end of the day, what happened? They say server they went down, server this, server that, and when you follow that up to the election petition that stemmed from, you will see that INEC was running from pillar to post, trying to convince the courts that they actually didn't use the server, and they actually, as if everything depended on the server. So now, I felt that by this year's election, whatever the problems were in 2019 would have been perfected. That's it. And when you listen to the professor, you want to be confident that Nigeria will clap for this, commission. And I was one of them. I was so glad that now we will be going the right direction. Yeah. And when the election started, I was still happy. But when it came to the collation process, then you started saying some people wanted to hijack this from China, from Russia, from all these things should have been well taken care of, because look at the budget of INEC. No country will vote such humongous sum of money for any agency and reap excuses at the end of the day.
That's it.
That's not the right thing to do.
Did you see this coming?
I had my fears about the electronic transmission of results. I had my fears because, look, even Russia and America, they are involved in cyber warfare against one another. It's a big problem. Remember Obamacare, how the portal crashed at some point. And these are advanced countries of the world. I was wondering whether we had enough safeguards to ensure that everything went smoothly. Beavers had been used to transmit results during off-season elections. Yeah. We had not used it for a general election like this. What I could see from what happened was that the usual stress tests, integrity tests that should have been conducted were not conducted. I was reading an interview by the head of the Nigerian Computer Society saying that INEC was trying to save money, that they kept helping, that clearly the budget was not enough and they were trying to save money. There were people that they could have used that could have helped them. And they kept, the Nigerian Computer Society kept asking them, yes, you've done this mock test.
What about this?
The mock test will never give you what you are going to see
in
on election
real
day.
time.
presidential election where everybody is involved. Everyone is trying to get onto that portal.
Yeah.
They kept assuring that, look, they were up to the task. But he said that he knew that this sort of thing could happen. Now, they had an option to take the risk of this thing freezing on election day, or being attacked by hackers
and their cousins,
who were reported to have made, within a space of 3 weeks, launched more than 1 million attacks on Nigerian territory. So they had an option to take that risk, and then for people to then come and say, oh, INEC portal froze after the INEC viewing portal froze after just a few hours into the election. INEC chose the other route, which was to do the manual collation. Of course, it was INEC's idea that, look, let's have electronic transfer of results from the polling units as a layer of transparency. It is not even in the Electoral Act that thing must go to IRF. INEC came up with the idea to give a semblance of greater transparency. But if you made a promise to people and you fail to fulfill that promise, of course people will complain. Now, what INEC is saying is, for Beavers achieved 85% functionality success. Do not mix Beavers with the IRF portal.
Yeah.
They are almost exclusive of one another. But it is the Beavers machine that you use to transmit the report to the IRF portal, the public viewing portal.
Yeah.
So INEC has now said, okay, for the governorship election, we will use this fully. That is another promise that it has made. And I can understand why it has taken its time to say, okay, let's do this configuration. We need 5 days. But because of that court case, they needed to wait for the verdict of the court, which came just 2 days ago. So, of course, they ran out of time. But we've seen some of the political parties saying, oh, we can't trust these people. But you cannot invalidate this whole election just because of the matter of transmission of results. What are we even transmitting? It is still the same result on Form EC8A. Because what Beavers does is simply snap the...
And capture
snap that result sheet.
It.
Snap that result sheet and transmit to the viewing portal for everyone to see. So my own attitude to this whole thing, and I have no regret about it, is that that election was very largely transparent. Beyond the glitches that came and the inability to transmit, the election was largely peaceful in many parts of the country and reflected the desires of our people. An election in which 20 state governors could not deliver their states. APC alone lost 12 states. Just one party lost 12 states. We had never had an election like that. And if somebody from nowhere could emerge and then defeat a sitting governor, somebody used to be an aide to the governor, defeated Governor Tom in Benue, it means the era of governors simply collecting the result and saying, look, give me so number of votes here. That era is gone.
Yeah.
Now what we must struggle, and I'm surprised that people are not focusing on that, all these parties that are making so much noise about this election. The new trick to rig, it's not entirely new, but it was used in this election in many places, is vote suppression, whereby where you are strong, you get thugs to ensure that your opponent cannot challenge you.
That's it.
They stop people from getting to the polling centers so that only their people can dominate the voting. We saw that happen in many places. Where, for example, you could see that you will lose by a huge margin. What are you going to do? You send those thugs. At the end of the day, you lose by a narrow margin. It's still vote rigging in another form. So this vote suppression is what we must guide against happening in Sokoto. And is the reason in this election we saw a lot of cancelled ballots. It's because of that. Because where you instigate violence in a place, obviously, what the law says is that do not return any.
That's it.
So it happened a lot in this election. If you hear, we are so much focused on the numbers. But if people will focus on how they arrived at those numbers, you will see that where those returning officers are reporting to the INEC chairman, they are mentioning many invalid votes. And those invalid votes were largely due to cancellations or in some cases overvoting.
Yeah.
Because that means Beavers, this is what, because Beavers will establish that there's overvoting and it will all be cancelled. So when we are talking about making this election credible, we should not just simply focus on transmission. How about how people are rigging by intimidating others and making sure that they can't get to polling center? It's very important, and it impacts on the outcome.
Adekunle, this is a country of conspiracy theorists. So at a time like this, you expect them to come to light. But after 24 years, since 1999 through to now, our electoral process should have been cleaner than it is.
Of course, far, far, far cleaner than it is. But the truth is, each president comes and whatever the number one, man wants, sometimes it takes, when they are going, they strengthen the system. But when they are there, just look back. So the truth is, by now, we should not be discussing this electronic transmission bypass. These are things that should have been institutionalized.
Yeah,
long time ago.
Because as you said,
because by now,
off-season elections.
By now, there are still a lot of things that are wrong with even with the current system. Yeah. He just mentioned one of them. You see many wrecks, coming out after the votes that they announced the other result under duress in order to save their lives and the lives of those, in their team. You get my point? And that the truth picture is this. In a Nigeria where there's government, in this country, do you think that's possible? But it is happening. So we have to do something around that. The usual practice whereby the court, especially the Supreme Court, we elect, so in quote, a governor or a senator, should actually stop.
Yeah. Do
your voting before anybody is sworn in. Exhaust the litigation, palaver that, arises out of that. That should also be institutionalized. Nobody should be sworn in until you are done with, litigation issues. But litigation will continue until there is accountability, transparency, free and fair and credible elections. Of course, no matter how credible the elections are, I know Nigerian politicians, they are a different breed. They will go to court. Even we are talking about transmission. If result from each polling unit is sent to every Nigerian, every politician, every contestant, they will still go to court. You understand me? So, but as much as we can, I believe we are still on the right track.
Okay, then. I hear we must take a breather. Let's go for a commercial break. We'll be back. But don't forget, this is still Journalist Hangout from TVC. Of course, we're dealing with this story. APC, Labour Party, IPAC, and others disagree over postponement of the coming governorship and state assembly elections. The Nigerian politician, many years after, is still a bad loser.
Oh, a terribly bad loser. Terribly. I hear people say this is the worst election in our history. Whoever says that is patently dishonest. Because some of the things that happen in this election are, in fact, unheard of, to say the least. Look at the number of governors that couldn't win Senate seats. In fact, one of those governors came third The governor of Abia came third in the Senate race.
The governor of Cross River too.
Yes. Yeah.
And
he lost to a senator. He lost to Jarigbe.
Yeah.
And there are, look how Tom lost to his former.
Yes.
And Abaribe defeated the governor. Abaribe left the party because of the governor. Abaribe then defeated the governor. The governor didn't even come second.
Interestingly, he is.
So he must say something. He must say something about the desire of the people and whether that desire has been met. For the president to lose his state. The president lost his state. For Asiwaju to lose Lagos when he's contesting. Even when he was not on the ballot, he didn't lose Lagos. For him to lose Lagos with him on the ballot, that says something about the election.
The process, yes.
That by and large, it reflected the views of the wishes of the people.
Yeah.
And that's why I like what Obanikoro said yesterday. Obanikoro said, they claimed that Obanikoro is trying to rig the process so that his son has been defeated. He said, look, I respect the people. This is the decision of the people. My son has been beaten. I'm not going to do anything about it. I mean, that is democracy.
Yeah.
That such number of people...
You win some, you lose some.
If they told you that Yobe will fall to PDP before this election, would you believe?
Yeah,
and even Borno State, where the governor got more than 1 million votes the last time, they had to struggle to win. In Zamfara State, out of 13 local governments, APC lost 6. Some people don't even know what happened in this election. APC had to struggle to win Zamfara. They lost 6. They lost the state capital, Gusau.